Welcome to Heartbreaker, your love radio.
Rafael was driving home on a rainy night, the sound of raindrops hitting the windshield seeming like a grim omen. The exhausting day at work had left him drained, but the feeling of discomfort grew stronger as he approached home. As he parked, he noticed the lights were on, and upon entering, the aroma of red wine filled his senses. Fine glasses were arranged on the living room table, a scene that might have been romantic on another occasion, but now it gave him an uneasy feeling. Climbing the stairs, Rafael heard laughter and whispered voices. A knot formed in his stomach. The familiarity of that sound made him alert. He hesitated for a moment, but curiosity and anxiety led him to the bedroom door. His hand trembled slightly as he turned the doorknob, and when he opened the door, what he saw paralyzed him. Isabel and Felipe were there, intertwined in an intimate embrace, their faces illuminated by the soft light of the bedside lamp. The scene was a punch to the gut. All the trust he had in his wife and his friend crumbled in an instant. "Rafael!" Isabel exclaimed, the panic in her voice evident. She pulled away from Felipe, but the damage was already done. Rafael felt the adrenaline surge, but instead of exploding in anger, he just stood there, as if time had frozen. Memories of happy moments they had shared together flashed through his mind. The laughter, the whispered promises under the moonlight, the love he believed was unshakable. Now, everything seemed like a lie. Felipe tried to justify himself, but Rafael didn't want to hear it. "I don't want to hear anything from you," Rafael said, his voice firm but restrained. He turned and left the house, feeling the cold rain hit his face as if the drops were tears of a cruel fate. The sound of the rain mixed with the pain he carried, and each drop that fell seemed to echo his despair. On the street, Rafael walked aimlessly, lost in his thoughts. The betrayal by Isabel and Felipe was not just a breach of trust, it was a blow to his heart. He stopped at a bus stop, watching the city lights reflect in the puddles. "I can't leave it like this," he murmured to himself, determination beginning to take shape within him. The deep pain he felt was transforming into a flame that motivated him to act. He knew that the betrayal would not go unpunished. Rafael looked up at the sky filled with dark clouds and made a silent promise to himself. He would find a way to make Isabel and Felipe pay for what they had done. As he walked, his mind buzzed with plans and ideas. The rain continued to fall, but now, instead of symbolizing sadness, each drop seemed a reminder that he was no longer willing to be a victim. Rafael took a deep breath, feeling the determination grow within him. The anger would guide him, and he would begin to weave a web of revenge that would reveal the darkest secrets of his betrayers. "They will feel the weight of their actions," he promised aloud, as if the words could solidify his resolve. The city passed by him, indifferent to the emotional storm unfolding within Rafael. He was ready to make the echo of betrayal reverberate in their lives, and in doing so, hoped to find some semblance of peace. Rafael was sitting in his office, surrounded by papers that seemed to multiply by the minute. The dim light of the lamp above illuminated his face, which displayed an expression of determination. He was resolved to put his plan into action, and Clara, his friend and co-worker, had become his confidant in the process. The tension in the air was palpable as they discussed the next steps. "Are you sure this is what you want to do, Rafael?" Clara asked, her voice filled with concern. She had always been the voice of reason, but at that moment, Rafael did not want to be dissuaded. He turned to her, his eyes burning with an intensity he barely recognized. "Clara, Felipe is not just a friend who betrayed me. He's a corrupt businessman. His life revolves around lies and schemes. I can't let him go unpunished," Rafael replied, his voice firm. He began to flip through the documents in front of him, revealing a pile of information he had gathered about Felipe. "But exposing Felipe is risky. What if you end up hurting yourself in the process?" Clara insisted, crossing her arms. She knew Rafael was hurt, but she also knew that revenge might lead nowhere. "I don't care about the risks anymore. He destroyed my life, Clara. He and Isabel. Everything I believed to be true crumbled in an instant," Rafael spoke, almost in a whisper. The memories of happy moments with Isabel and Felipe haunted him, but the anger he felt was stronger. I can use my connections to uncover his illegal schemes. This could ruin his reputation. Clara sighed, realizing she wouldn't be able to change Rafael's mind. So what do you need from me? She was willing to help, even if she didn't entirely agree with his approach. Rafael smiled, relieved to have someone by his side. I need you to help me filter the information. Let's find out what he's hiding, Rafael said, adrenaline beginning to pulse through his veins. Clara nodded, picking up some folders and starting to review the documents. If you're determined to do this, we need to be careful. We can't leave any traces, she warned, her expression shifting from worry to shared determination. Rafael felt a wave of gratitude for having Clara by his side. It was a rare feeling amidst the emotional turmoil he was facing. As they worked side by side, he began to feel more in control. This new and invigorating sensation was a way to regain the power he had lost. The days passed, and Rafael's life became a constant sequence of meetings and investigations. He and Clara had become an unbeatable duo, and with each new piece of data they uncovered about Felipe, Rafael's determination grew. He remembered the nights when he lay in bed, his mind filled with memories of Isabel and Felipe, and wondered how everything had come to this point. The love he felt now seemed like an illusion, a distant echo that haunted him. One night, while they were reviewing documents, Rafael looked at Clara and said, "Have you ever thought about how betrayal can change the way we see the world? Before, I believed in values like loyalty and friendship. Now all of that seems so empty." Clara observed him with empathy. "Yes, Rafael. But remember, not everyone is like them. Don't let this experience define who you are. You can still find people who value honesty." He smiled, but the pain in his heart was undeniable. "Maybe one day. But for now, I need to focus on what's to come. Felipe is not going to get away with this." With that, Rafael threw himself headfirst into his plan, determined to expose Felipe and reverse the betrayal that had destroyed his life. Revenge was his only goal, and he was ready to face the consequences, even if it meant digging deeper into an abyss of pain and disillusionment. Rafael was sitting at a table in the cafe, the aroma of fresh coffee filling the air around him, but he couldn't concentrate on the drink. Next to him, Clara had an anxious look, while Leonardo was fiddling with his laptop, the screen's light reflecting on his face. They were there to discuss the next step of a plan that Rafael had carefully crafted over the past few weeks. "Are you sure this will work?" Clara asked, looking at Rafael with a mix of concern and determination. Exposing Felipe could have unexpected consequences. "I know it might be risky, but he needs to pay for what he's done," Rafael replied, his voice firm. "Didn't you see how he and Isabel were together? They have no idea what's about to happen." Leonardo, who had been engrossed in his research, looked up and added, "I managed to access some information about Felipe's money laundering scheme. He's really deep into something. This could be the key we need to bring him down." "Great, that's exactly what I needed to hear," Rafael said, feeling a wave of revitalization. He was taking control of his life again, and it gave him a sense of power he hadn't felt in months. "Let's use this information to create an anonymous email for that investigative journalist you mentioned, Clara. If he publishes this, there will be no way for Felipe to escape." "And what about Isabel?" Clara asked, hesitant. "Is she involved in this scheme in any way?" "She's an accomplice by her own choice," Rafael replied with a determined look. "I'm not going to spare anyone. They both deserve to feel the weight of their actions." With the data Leonardo had collected, the atmosphere in the cafe became electrically tense. Rafael began typing the email, his hands trembling slightly as adrenaline pulsed through his body. He carefully crafted each word, ensuring that the message was clear and impactful. When he finished, he looked at the two, who seemed equally nervous and excited. "It's ready." "I'm sending it now," Rafael said, his heart racing. Clara and Leonardo leaned in to see the screen, and he hesitated for a moment, feeling the weight of the decision. But the memory of Isabel's face and the betrayal he had witnessed fueled his resolve. He clicked, "Send." Now we wait, he said, trying to disguise the anxiety in his voice. Once the journalist receives this, everything will change. Meanwhile, across the city, Isabel was beginning to feel the pressure of her actions. She was at home, alone, when her phone buzzed with a new anonymous message. The content made her freeze. They were photos of her and Felipe, captured in moments she thought were safe. Fear began to creep into her heart. "Isabel, are you okay?" Felipe asked on the phone later, noticing she was distracted. "You seem worried." "It's just some strange messages I'm receiving." "I don't know where they're coming from," Isabel replied, her voice trembling. "I can't understand it. What's going on?" "Don't worry. It's just someone trying to intimidate us. No one can know about us." "I'll take care of it," Felipe said, trying to sound confident, but Isabel could detect the hesitation in his voice. While Isabel tried to calm her own fears, Rafael was a few blocks away, observing the scene from outside. He felt satisfied seeing her unease. The revenge he had planned was beginning to unfold as he had hoped. He didn't know exactly what the consequences of his actions would be, but at that moment, the idea of seeing Isabel panic was a relief. "This is just the beginning," he murmured to himself, feeling a mix of satisfaction and coldness. He decided he wouldn't stop until all of Felipe and Isabel's secrets were exposed, even if it meant losing a bit of himself in the process. Rafael was at an elegant gala event, surrounded by well-dressed people, laughter, and loud music. He was there not for pleasure, but to observe, to witness the effect of his ongoing revenge plan. The room was illuminated by sparkling chandeliers, and the walls were adorned with paintings by renowned artists, but none of this captured his attention. What really interested him was Felipe, who was on the stage, surrounded by reporters, desperately trying to clear his name. As Felipe addressed the crowd with a confident smile, Rafael hid among the guests, watching every movement, every word that came out of the man's mouth, the man who had destroyed his life. He could see the tension on Felipe's face, even though he tried to mask it. "The accusations are unfounded," Felipe said, his voice firm, but Rafael noticed the slight hesitation. "I am here to prove that I am not the man they are portraying. I am not corrupt." Rafael felt a chill in his stomach. He knew the truth was about to emerge, and it gave him a bitter satisfaction. Corrupt, yes, but not just that, he thought, remembering the nights when Felipe and Isabel shared laughter and secrets. He is a traitor. And now the world will know. During the interview, a reporter dared to confront him. "Felipe, what do you have to say about the recent allegations of corruption?" "There are documents proving links to money laundering," the journalist asked, his voice sharp as a knife. The murmuring in the audience grew, and Rafael smiled as he saw Felipe's expression change from confident to alarmed. "These are lies. I have been targeted by a smear campaign," Felipe tried to justify himself, but Rafael could see his confidence fading. He turned to Clara, who was beside him, and whispered, "He's lost. There's no escaping now." Clara, with a worried look, responded, "Are you sure this is really what you want?" "Look around, Rafael. This could end very badly." Rafael just nodded, but his mind was elsewhere. He was absorbed in his own thoughts, imagining how Isabel would react to seeing her lover dragged into scandal. The image of her, wide-eyed with horror, crossed his mind. She must be here, he thought, searching for her in the crowd. And then he saw her. Isabel was among the guests, her face pale and tense. He could see that she was struggling to maintain her composure, but the signs were clear, the pressure of the moment was consuming her. Rafael couldn't help but feel a slight relief. She deserves this, he repeated to himself, although a part of him wrestled with the idea that her suffering wouldn't bring back what had been lost. As the uproar increased and reporters started pressing Felipe with more questions, Rafael felt the adrenaline coursing through his veins. He was about to see the man who had betrayed his trust be unmasked. "This is just the beginning," he whispered to Clara, who looked at him reproachfully, but Rafael was beyond reason. The feeling of control, of power, was intoxicating. The reporter's words cut like a lightning bolt when he suddenly revealed new evidence. a document that clearly showed Felipe's schemes. "Here is a copy of an email linking Felipe to suspicious transactions," the journalist read aloud, and the room fell into absolute silence. Panic spread across Felipe's face, and Rafael couldn't contain a satisfied smile. It was the revenge he had meticulously planned. As the commotion intensified, Rafael wondered, amidst all the confusion, how Isabel would react. He imagined whether she would feel any guilt seeing her lover exposed, or if she would feel only fear. The truth was that Rafael no longer cared. He had freed himself from the weight of betrayal, and now he just wanted to see the results of his actions. Felipe was in trouble, and that was all that really mattered at that moment. Meanwhile, Isabel was in panic. With Felipe's reputation at stake, she found herself increasingly isolated, not knowing whom to turn to. She grabbed the phone and started dialing Rafael's number, but her calls went straight to voicemail. "Please, Rafael, you need to listen to me," she murmured to herself, the tension consuming her. "I can't lose everything now. Felipe can't be exposed like this." Every day that passed, Rafael felt more strengthened in his decision. He was one step away from ending Felipe once and for all. However, his mind was a whirlwind of emotions. He looked at his computer monitor, where the evidence he had gathered was organized. "This will be the last straw," he murmured to himself, while reviewing the files. "Felipe needs to pay for everything." Clara, his friend and accomplice, entered the room. "Rafael, are you okay? Are you sure you want to go through with this? Have you thought about the consequences?" She approached, concerned. "I can't stop now, Clara. You have no idea what I've been through. Felipe destroyed my life and Isabel's." "He needs to be exposed," Rafael replied, his voice firm. His gaze was fixed on the screen, but his mind wandered through memories of a past that now seemed distant. But what if this ends badly? What if he retaliates? "You know he has power and contacts," Clara insisted, but Rafael was determined. "I'm not afraid of him anymore. What he did was far worse than any reprisal that might come," Rafael said, a determined glint in his eyes. He was ready to do whatever was necessary to ensure the truth was revealed. The evidence Rafael had sent to the press began to spread, and he had no way to control the situation. With each new story, the pressure increased. Isabel was sinking into a sea of despair, surrounded by disapproving looks and malicious whispers that followed her wherever she went. Felipe's reputation, her lover, had been dragged into the mud, and with it, she had also become a pariah. The friends who once surrounded her now distanced themselves, and the few who still tried to stay close did so with a mix of pity and disdain. On a gray afternoon, as she looked out the window of her apartment, the rain fell in heavy drops, reflecting the storm brewing inside her. "I can't believe this is happening," she murmured to herself, holding a glass of wine that no longer brought any comfort. She picked up the phone and tried calling Rafael. He had become a constant presence in her thoughts, a painful reminder that refused to fade. "Why won't he answer my calls?" she thought, anguished. "I need to talk to him, explain everything." Determined, Isabel picked up the phone and dialed Clara, Rafael's friend. "Clara, it's me, Isabel. You have to help me. I'm desperate. Everyone has abandoned me, and I don't know what to do," her voice trembled as she spoke. Clara, sensing the urgency in Isabel's voice, decided that a conversation might be beneficial. "Isabel, let's meet. Talk to me, what's going on?" said Clara, trying to offer a glimmer of hope. Meanwhile, Rafael was in his office, surrounded by papers and documents that revealed Felipe's corruption. He looked at Clara, who was anxiously awaiting his instructions. "I'm going to make one last move. I need to make sure Felipe pays for everything he did," he said with determination. Clara watched him, worried. "Just be careful, Rafael. Sometimes what we seek can lead us to dark places." In the cafe where Isabel and Clara met, the atmosphere was tense. Isabel, with red and swollen eyes, couldn't hide her despair. "Clara, I'm terrified. What am I going to do now? Felipe is finished, and I can't live like this without anyone by my side, she confessed, her voice choked. Clara looked at her with compassion but also with a hint of caution. Isabel, you need to understand that the choices you made have consequences. You can't expect everything to magically resolve itself. Isabel bit her lip, trying to hold back the tears. I just wanted to be happy. Rafael never knew. He didn't know what was happening between me and Felipe. I thought I could have both. Now all I have is this loneliness. Clara, sensing Isabel's vulnerability, decided to be honest. You need to face Rafael and be honest about what happened. There's no way to change the past, but you can try to salvage something from the present. Determined, Isabel decided she would talk to Rafael. I'm going to confront him. He needs to know that I'm not the villain in this story, she said, a glimmer of hope in her eyes. Clara nodded, worried about the consequences of this decision. Isabel, just keep in mind that the truth isn't always what we expect. You might end up even more disappointed. As Isabel prepared for the meeting, Rafael felt conflicted. There was a burning desire for revenge inside him, but also the awareness that life wasn't so simple. I just want Felipe to pay for what he did, he repeated to himself, trying to convince himself that his decision to act was the only way out. As the day progressed, Isabel felt increasingly anxious. She knew that her upcoming conversation with Rafael could be a turning point in her life. Desperation consumed her, and although she knew she had caused pain, the need to redeem herself drove her forward. If I can just explain, she thought. If I can show him that I'm not the villain. Rafael sat at a table in the cafe he used to frequent with Isabel, watching the hurried movements of the customers, each immersed in their own stories. He looked out the window, the raindrops sliding down the glass as if they wanted to take away his sad memories. The image of Isabel, now marked by betrayal, tormented him. He saw her enter with a tired expression, red eyes, and a hunched posture, as if the weight of the world was on her shoulders. When their eyes met, a wave of conflicting emotions flooded Rafael. He had planned this meeting, but the reality of being face to face with the woman who had betrayed him was more challenging than he had imagined. Isabel approached hesitantly, her hands trembling slightly. Rafael, she began, trying to find the right words. I don't know how to explain. You don't need to explain, Isabel, Rafael interrupted, his voice firm but controlled.
I saw everything.
I saw you and Felipe. There's no justification that can erase the pain you caused me. He spoke with a tone of disdain, but there was a deep sadness in his voice that he couldn't completely hide. Isabel took a deep breath, trying to compose herself. I know I was wrong. I never wanted things to get to this point. Felipe, he made me feel alive again. I never wanted to hurt you. Tears began to slide down her face, and Rafael felt a bit guilty seeing his ex-wife in that condition. But the pain he had felt made him harden his heart. Feel alive? What about me? The life you destroyed, Isabel? You and Felipe thought only of yourselves, disregarding everything we built together, Rafael retorted, his piercing gaze fixed on her eyes. He felt the adrenaline coursing through his veins, anger and sadness mixed inside him. I know there's no way to fix what I did, but I deeply regret it. I just wanted you to understand that it wasn't planned. It happened, Isabel pleaded, her voice choked with emotion. I didn't know Felipe was involved in such dangerous things. I thought he could be a friend, someone who could listen to me. A friend? Isabel, you knew him very well. What you did was betrayal, and that can't be justified, Rafael responded, already losing his patience. He remembered the promises they made to each other, the hopes and dreams that now seemed so distant. You had the chance to be honest with me, but you chose lies. She lowered her head, unable to face the fury and disappointment emanating from him. I don't know how to move forward. Look at what I did to our lives, to my life. I feel so lost, Rafael.
Lost?
You lost yourself when you decided to betray me, Rafael said, his voice lower now, almost a whisper but still firm. It's not me who needs understanding at this moment. You made your choice, and now you have to face the consequences. Please, Rafael. I'm here for you. I wish we could talk, resolve this somehow. I still care about you, Isabel said, trying to reach for his hand, but Rafael pulled away, denying her touch. You care now? Where was that concern when you were in Felipe's arms? I can't give you what you want. What I want is for you to understand the gravity of what you've done. I'm not the same man you knew, he replied, feeling his chest tighten with the pain of betrayal. Isabel took a step back, her look of despair turning into a semblance of understanding. I'm sorry. I really am. I can't change the past, but I'm here if you want to talk. Rafael looked her in the eyes, searching for any spark of the woman he loved, but all he saw was the fragility of someone who had made a terrible decision.
No, Isabel.
I can't look at you and see only the woman I loved anymore. Now, I see the traitor. And that won't change. With those words, Rafael stood up, feeling the weight of his decision. He took no pleasure in hurting Isabel, but the pain she caused was a scar he could never erase. As he left the cafe, he looked back one last time. Isabel stood alone, and her image slowly faded, like the echo of betrayal still resonating in his heart. Rafael was nervous, but excitement pulsed through his veins as he prepared for the big event. Felipe's gala was the perfect opportunity to expose the truth about his friend and Isabel's betrayal. He donned a dark suit that concealed his identity and wore a mask that covered part of his face, giving him a mysterious air. As he entered the luxurious hall, the soft music and glittering lights reflected the opulence of the setting, but Rafael was focused on his objective. As he walked among the guests, he observed Felipe, who smiled and chatted with some people, trying to maintain the appearance of a successful businessman. Rafael couldn't help but feel a chill remembering the betrayal. Felipe's laughter echoed in his mind like a cruel reminder, a reminder that had led him here. He approached a group that was conversing animatedly, disguising his tension with a cordial smile. Who would have thought Felipe could organize such a big party after everything that happened? Commented one of the guests, a longtime friend of Felipe. He's always been good at putting on a show, even when the truth is about to come out, replied a woman, with a sarcastic tone. Rafael was amused by the conversation, but he knew the real show was yet to come. He positioned himself strategically in a spot where he could observe everything. As time passed and the party reached its climax, Rafael felt the moment was near. With a slight signal, he approached the stage, where Felipe was about to give a speech. The room was full, and the tension was palpable. Ladies and gentlemen, Felipe began with a confident smile, it's an honor to be here with all of you tonight. I thank you for your continued support during these challenging times. The audience applauded, but Rafael knew the truth was about to be revealed. With a determined move, Rafael stepped onto the stage and interrupted Felipe. Sorry to interrupt, but the real story needs to be told. Murmurs spread through the room, and all eyes turned to Rafael. Felipe stood frozen, his expression shifting from confidence to confusion. Who are you? He asked, trying to regain control of the situation. I am someone who knows your secrets, Felipe, Rafael replied in a firm voice. You may have deceived everyone here, but not me. I know about your scams, about how you betrayed not only your wife but also your business. The guests began to whisper, intrigued and alarmed. What's happening? Asked a woman in the front row, her eyes wide. Don't worry, I'm just here to shed some light on the truth, Rafael said, turning to the audience. Felipe, you thought you could hide your lies forever? That you could enjoy yourself at others' expense and get away with it? Felipe tried to defend himself. This is ridiculous. You don't know what you're talking about. I know you've been involved in corruption schemes and that your relationship with Isabel isn't the only scandal in your life, Rafael continued with a satisfied smile. And I'm not the only one who knows. The media has already received information, and the truth is about to come out. Isabel, who was in the audience, was in shock. The color drained from her face as the scandal unfolded before her eyes. "Rafael, please," she shouted, but her voice was drowned out by the ensuing commotion. "You betrayed me, Isabel," Rafael declared, staring at her intensely. "And I couldn't let you and Felipe continue living this lie. The truth must come out, no matter how hard it is." Reactions began to intensify. People started to rise from their seats, some with expressions of surprise, others of indignation. Rafael felt chaos set in, and the satisfaction of seeing Felipe's mask removed was undeniable, but there was also a shadow of sadness. He realized that revenge didn't fill the void he felt. "You can't do this," Felipe shouted, his voice filled with desperation. "I'll ruin you." "You can't ruin anything, Felipe," Rafael responded, his voice calm but firm. "You're already finished. Now, it's time to face the consequences of your actions." The uproar intensified, and Rafael knew he had achieved his goal. He had exposed the truth, but the victory didn't bring the peace he had hoped for. As the room filled with discussions and accusations, Rafael stepped away from the stage, feeling the weight of everything that had happened. The echo of betrayal still resonated in his mind, and he realized that, although he had succeeded in exposing Felipe, the price for it was higher than he had imagined. Rafael slowly walked away from the event scene. He had done it, his revenge was complete. But as he walked through the streets illuminated by the soft glow of streetlights, a sense of emptiness began to settle in his heart. He looked into the darkness around him and realized that, even though he had destroyed Felipe's life and brought Isabel's secrets to light, he hadn't found the satisfaction he had expected. Meanwhile, Isabel's life was falling apart. In her now lonely and silent apartment, she sat on the couch, surrounded by boxes of memories that once represented happiness. The phone rang, but she hesitated to answer. It was Anna, her friend, trying to comfort her. "Isabel, you need to talk." "I'm here for you," Anna said, her concern evident in her voice.
No, Anna.
"I don't want to talk about it." "Not now," Isabel replied, her voice choked with despair. "But you can't just isolate yourself. Rafael did this because of you. You need to face the situation," Anna insisted. Isabel closed her eyes, a whirlwind of emotions invading her. She knew she had been wrong, that her betrayal was not just a mistake but a choice that destroyed not only her marriage but also her relationship with Rafael, who now seemed like a stranger. Meanwhile, Rafael walked aimlessly, his mind oscillating between anger and sadness. In a moment of clarity, Rafael stopped in front of a park. The fallen leaves on the wet grass seemed to reflect his state of mind. He sat on a bench and contemplated the dark sky, where the stars barely shone. The sense of triumph he had expected was not there. Instead, an emptiness consumed him, as if each step towards revenge had taken him further from the peace he so desired. "What have I really gained from this?" he murmured to himself, not expecting an answer. "Felipe is in jail, Isabel is alone. And me? What am I now?" Clara's voice still echoed in his mind, reminding him that he needed to deal with the consequences of his actions. Rafael stood up, determined not to let the darkness of revenge consume him. He knew he needed to seek a new path, one not marked by betrayal and pain. Meanwhile, Isabel decided it was time to face the ghosts that surrounded her. With a heavy heart, she picked up the phone and called Rafael. The phone's ring echoed in the silence of her apartment, and the anticipation of hearing his voice made her feel a chill in her stomach. After a few rings, the call was answered. "Rafael," she said hesitantly. "Isabel," his voice was cold, but there was no anger, just a deep sadness. "I'm sorry. I don't know how to explain what I did. I was confused and," she began, but Rafael interrupted her. "You don't need to justify yourself, Isabel. What you did was a mistake, and now we are paying the price. I'm moving on, Isabel." "That's what we need to do," he said, decisively. "Rafael, please," the plea in her voice made him hesitate for a moment. "I can't anymore. The betrayal not only ruined our relationship but left me in a place I can no longer bear, he replied, sincerity echoing in every word. Isabel sighed, feeling the reality of what she had caused. She knew the door was closing between them, but she wasn't sure she could move on. The call ended, and Rafael stood there, under the stars that seemed to shine a little brighter now, as if the universe were acknowledging his internal struggle. Months had passed since Rafael had orchestrated his revenge. As he walked among the decorated tables of an event, Rafael encountered a woman who immediately caught his attention. Her name was Beatriz. Rafael couldn't help but notice the sadness that lingered in Beatriz's eyes. He introduced himself, and the conversation flowed naturally. They talked for hours. Rafael told Beatriz about Isabel and Felipe's betrayal, about the plan he had devised to get revenge, and how it had led him to a state of disillusionment. Beatriz, in turn, revealed that she had also been deceived by someone she trusted. I thought I loved him, but he made me believe I was the only one. When I found out the truth, my world collapsed, she said, her voice choked with emotion. It's hard to trust again, isn't it? Rafael commented, remembering how the betrayal had eroded his trust in everyone around him. Beatriz nodded in agreement. Yes, and that pain is something I carry with me. But at the same time, I feel that I can help others not go through what I went through. The connection between them grew like an invisible thread, linking their experiences of pain and overcoming. Rafael realized he was falling for Beatriz, but at the same time, he hesitated. He didn't want his past scars to interfere with a new beginning. Beatriz, I don't want you to think I'm just trying to fill a void, he confessed, looking into her eyes. I really want to get to know you and your struggles, but I'm afraid that the past still holds me back. Beatriz smiled understandingly. Rafael, we all have our past and its wounds. What's important is what we do with it. We can help each other move forward. However, in an unexpected twist, Rafael received an anonymous message on his phone, full of threats and insinuations. He was shocked to realize that in a last act of desperation, Isabel was trying to incriminate him, manipulating the situation to reverse her own downfall. The words on the screen seemed to echo his old pain. You can't escape what you've done.
He will make you pay.
Rafael looked at Beatriz, who was distracted by a conversation with someone else. He felt a mix of anger and relief, anger at what Isabel was trying to do, and relief for no longer being tied to her. He stood up, deciding he would not let the past drag him back. Beatriz, I need to take care of some things. I don't want this to ruin what we have, but I need to cut ties with Isabel once and for all, he said firmly. I understand, Rafael. Go and take care of it. I'll be here when you get back, replied Beatriz, with a look of understanding that made Rafael's heart race. He walked away, determined to confront Isabel and end the cycle of betrayal once and for all. Arriving at the place where Isabel was waiting for him, Rafael felt he was about to close a chapter of his life. Why are you doing this, Isabel? He asked, frustration evident in his voice. Haven't you learned anything? Wasn't your betrayal enough? Isabel stepped forward, her expression a mix of anger and desperation. Rafael, you don't understand. I have nothing now. Felipe is gone, and I can't lose you too. Her plea was almost pathetic, but Rafael wouldn't be swayed by her words. I'm not the man you knew anymore. You destroyed everything between us. It's time to stop blaming me and face your choices, Rafael replied, feeling stronger with each word. He wouldn't allow the echo of betrayal to follow him. The truth was, he had found a new purpose and was determined to move forward without looking back. With that, Rafael walked away, leaving Isabel behind, knowing that the true peace he sought wasn't in revenge but in freeing himself from the weight of the past.